Hi students, today we're going to learn about quadratic functions. So in quadratic functions, we're going to look at the graphs first. There's the y-intercept, that's where the graph crosses the y-axis. The maximum, which is the highest point. The minimum, the lowest point. The vertex in a quadratic function is where the graph changes direction. So from increasing to decreasing or decreasing to increasing. This will be either the maximum or the minimum. And lastly, the axis of symmetry. This is the line where the graph can be folded and both sides of the graph are mirror images or are the same. Let's take a look at an example for y-intercept. So on this graph, the y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. So drawing the line here, let's look for the point where it crosses. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Y is equal to 4. So we're writing the y value. And just so you know, in IXL, you do not need to write y equals 4. You usually just put 4. Let's try another example. So here, once again, we have to go to the y-axis and find the point where the graph crosses. And the y value here is -2. So y equals -2. In IXL, all you need to put is -2. All right, now let's learn about maximum and minimum. In this graph here, they'll probably ask you for the maximum, and where is the highest point? Well, let's take a look. It is at 1, 5. Actually, for maximum, they're only looking for the y value, and the y value is 5. That is the highest point, the maximum. If they ask you for the minimum here, you have to be really careful because if you look, the arrows point down. That means it goes to -infinity. So in this graph, there is no minimum because it goes to -infinity. The arrow means it goes on forever. Now let's take a look at an example that has a minimum but no maximum. So you see, because this graph opened upwards, there is a lowest point. And there is no highest point, no maximum because the arrows go up to infinity. But the lowest point here, it's at -1 and -3. That is the coordinate point. But remember, for minimum and maximum, we only need the y value. So the y value is -3. On to vertex. Vertex is very similar to maximum and minimum. It is where the graph changes direction, so going up to down or down to up, depending. And yes, it is either the minimum or the maximum of the graph. In this case, it is the maximum, and we write the coordinate point, 1 for x on the x-axis and 5 for y on the y-axis. And that is your answer, 1, 5. Can you find the vertex for this example? And is it the minimum or the maximum? It's the minimum. And what is the coordinate point? -1, -3. And that's how we write the vertex. Okay, the last characteristic in this video, the axis of symmetry. It is a line where the graph can be folded so both sides are mirror images or the same. So the line is right there, and we have to find it on the x-axis, what value that is. X equals, in this case, it is 0, 1. So we write the equation x equals 1. For our second example, where can you draw the line? All right, where it changes direction is -1. We draw the line, that's where the graph can be folded. We look on the x-axis. X is equal to -1, and that will be our answer. So with a graph, these are pretty easy to find, but what if there's no graph? If there's no graph, then we need the equation, or we need to use Desmos. If the graph is written in vertex form, meaning it starts with y equals ax minus h squared plus k, so in this case, 3 is a, -2 is h, and k, you might think it's 4, but be careful because there's a plus there. K is -4. We can use this to find hk, which is the vertex, or the axis of symmetry, x equals h. So what is the vertex? hk. H is 2, and k is -4 because there is a negative sign there when it should have been positive. So when you see the negative, don't forget to put negative. Now, what is the axis of symmetry? It is the x value. What is the x value here? It is h. So x equals h, or 2. Now, how do you find the maximum or minimum? Well, if you look at the a value, it is positive. When the a value is positive, the graph opens upward. That means there is a minimum. And the minimum value, well, we just have to use the vertex y value to find it. And what is our y value? That's k. So y equals -4, or our minimum value is -4. Here's another example. What is a, what is h, and what is k? A is -5. H here, be careful because it's plus sign when it's supposed to be negative in the equation. So it's going to be -2. And k is 9. All right, so let's find the vertex. Vertex is hk, h is -2, and k is 9. Axis of symmetry, what is the h value? X equals -2. Now, if we look at the a value, which is -5, is it negative or positive? It is negative, so that means it opens downwards. So when the graph opens downward, there is a maximum. And what is the maximum? The maximum, we use the k value to find it. The maximum equals 9, or y equals 9, and in IXL you'll put 9. This next part gets really tricky if the graph is not in vertex form and is in general form, meaning ax squared plus bx plus c. You have to use the a, b, c values to find h and k, and then after you find h and k, that is your vertex, then you use what we learned from vertex form to find the maximum and minimum, or the axis of symmetry. Here's a very quick explanation. So a is 3, b is -2, c is 5. The formula for h is equal to -b divided by 2a. So -2 is 2 divided by 2a, a is 3, so that's 6, equals to 1 over 3. We take that and we put it into the equation again to find k. So we put in 1 over 3 for x, then we use our calculators and we will find that k is equal to 4.66666, or if we wanted to write it as a fraction, k will equal to 14 over 3. That was really fast and could have been confusing. But if you're not sure what to do, you could always use Desmos to check. Type in your equation, and if you use your mouse to press right there at the vertex, it will tell you the coordinate points. First number is h, second number is k. So remember, if you need help, you can always use Desmos.